Welcome back to the Subconscious Mind Mastery Podcast. Thomas Miller with you on one of our now Sunday episodes that we're releasing on Sunday mornings to focus a little bit more on the spiritual side. Thanks for being here. Today I wanted to talk about something that I think is one of the summations of the lessons that I've personally learned through the ups and downs of my own life, boiled down to what we're going to talk about today. Broadly, the topic is pursuing and understanding a wise path in life. And I'll tell you, there is a shift that happens somewhere up in the later years of life. And even this material, these books that I've chosen to bring to the table today, are representative of that. Wise old souls looking back at their life. We talk about energy a lot here, but wisdom is energy applied. And that's the shift that takes place is as you get older, you look back and you value the wisdom more than anything. In the younger years, you are so consumed by all of the things that you are doing at those middle busy phases and stages of your life. And at the end, you look back and you think, wow, I wish I'd been a little bit more wise. So that's what we're going to talk about. And wisdom is tapping into that greatest of all universal consciousness, as we're going to hear from two different sources. It is highest source, God. And this life is truly about being disconnected from that and then reconnecting with it. I love how Liz Green described it in her book called Neptune, simply. A very difficult book to read, but the message is clear. The whole thing, the whole enchilada, is about coming back to source. It's about our life flowing with that source. Now, okay, it's already gotten deep, but that's what we're going to do here on Sundays. We're going to venture into the Neptunian realms, so just be willing to go with me on sometimes we're going to get a little bit deep here. But when we do merge with that source, then so much shifts in our lives. And I will tell you, there's an opposite to that. The duality is that when we don't, often it doesn't take much to get off track. So if you're feeling a little off in some areas, maybe something in here will help. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned is that often people, things, places, etc., turn out not to be as they seemed. Now, initially, they may appear good and beneficial and something to be pursued or affiliated with, and you move in that direction. But then over time, you find out, in some cases, it would have been best if you had never crossed paths. I've been through a lot of these, several of these, in my 6 decades, and the bottom line lesson today especially is that you have to be a lot more careful. Things seem to have slid down in this area. Just a couple of examples. A radio station in Dallas that I've done several programs for over the last now 13 years. Offered me a show, this is some years ago, and it just ended up being a disaster. And see, that was something that was passionate for me in several areas around this. I mean, every human checkpoint was check. But the opposite of the wisdom that we're talking about here, that higher level of consciousness, was simply not there. And boy, did it ever show up. Many years ago, a friend of mine wanted to do a business together. Again, wish I'd never had. You've had your knocks and bruises too. The common element in all of those things, as I look back, those and others, was what was missing is what we're going to talk about today. And also, I was not following or seeking even intuitive guidance. Even Jesus said in the Bible, you do not have because you do not ask. Well, I wasn't asking, and it didn't show up out of nowhere. So the first source that I'd like to go to here is the book of Proverbs in the Bible, the Old Testament. One of the books that I think is least tampered with, shall we say. This one I think you can take as these are some of the old traditional Jewish writings that were handed down from King Solomon is who it's attributed to, the son of David, the wisest man on the earth at the time, because he asked God for wisdom. God gave him one request. He said, I want to be wise. These are his writings. And by the way, I am hypersensitive. I'll just announce here that when you read these old texts, they are definitely written from that patriarchal perspective. And since I had that massive discovery of a lost feminine side in myself, I am hypersensitive to that. But just realize, ladies, your time is coming in these writings for sure, and that it is what it is, and you can interpret or bring your own perspective of the feminine. I personally believe that the energy of God is equally masculine and equally feminine. I knew of an autistic child, severely autistic child, and often they have amazing perceptions that we don't have. This boy referred to Source always as Father, Mother, God. There's nothing wrong with welcoming the divine feminine whenever we go to these places. But this is written from that old patriarchal perspective, so just keep that in mind. The words are still good. This is from Proverbs chapter 2 in the Bible. My son, if you accept my words and store up my commands within you, turning your ear to wisdom and applying your heart to understanding, indeed, if you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, if you look for it as for silver and search for it as for hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He holds success in store for the upright. He is a shield for those whose walk is blameless. For he guards the course of the just and protects the way of the faithful ones. Then you will understand what is right and just and fair, every good path. For wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Discretion will protect you, and understanding will guard you. Wisdom will save you from the ways of wicked men, from men whose words are perverse, who have left the straight paths to walk in dark ways, who delight in doing wrong and rejoice in the perverseness of evil, whose paths are crooked and who are devious in their ways. But you will walk in the ways of the good and keep the paths of righteousness. And living in high energy, living in a high vibration, that's what Fred talks about in levels of energy. You are protected. You are living as close to the attributes of God on earth as you can. But then I went to the Tao Te Ching, written in 400 or attributed to 400 BC, written by Lao Tzu, or basically Old Master. It's a collection of very short chapters, and I'm in the 32 through 35 section if you'd like to look these up. But this is another perspective of this eternal wisdom that is flowing always around us that we can tap into. The Tao is forever undefined. Small though it is, in an unformed state, it cannot be grasped. The 10,000 things would come together, and gentle rain would fall. Men would need no more instruction, and all things would take their course. Knowing others is wisdom. Knowing the self is enlightenment. Mastering others requires force. Mastering the self needs strength. The Great Dao flows everywhere, both to the left and to the right. 10,000 things depend upon it. It holds nothing back. It fulfills its purpose silently and makes no claim. It nourishes the 10,000 things and yet is not their lord. It has no aim. It is very small. 10,000 things return to it, yet it is not their lord. It is very great. It does not show greatness and is therefore truly great. All men will come to him who keeps to the one, for there lie rest and happiness and peace. It cannot be seen, it cannot be heard, and yet it cannot be exhausted. Man, I love that little section. It just shows you that there is this great, intangible, almost unmasterable flow of energy that is there, just like the section from Proverbs said, to keep us on our guided path. And yet, the greatest kings of the world cannot understand it. It's that deep, personal connection with divine source. If you look back over the trajectory of a typical life, during the earliest years, we are learning. School, sometimes the school of hard knocks, but it's schooling. Then we start to apply what we've learned. We enter the workplace. We start to look for a mate, all that entails, which is a lot during those years. Keeps you busy. Finally, then, we might select someone, and that might lead to children, raising kids. All of a sudden, you have financial responsibilities and pressures, and you're lucky during those years to get 15 minutes to yourself in a day. Go, go, go from before sunrise to way after sunset. Then, eventually, the kids are up, they're gone, the house is quiet again. You start to look back. Like Bob Seger, you wake up one morning and you say, 20 years, where'd they go? 20 years. I don't know. And then you think, what do I have left from all of that? Yes, certainly relationships are there. Some of you live very close to your kids. I know one friend of mine, his daughter lives right behind him. They're basically meshed, integrated. I mean, their lives are and they communicate all the time. I have about the opposite situation. But you look back regardless, and you realize the greatest lesson for yourself through meeting all those demands of others was truly the wisdom that you either captured and grew like an investment during those years, or you lost. And you think, wow, I wish I had a do-over. That's the purpose of this little talk, is to stop and think about this. Are you crying out for wisdom? The author of Proverbs mentioned seeking for it as silver and gold. Today, we really can't relate to that. We might say, search for it like you would for Bitcoin at $200 per coin. Wow. Puts it in perspective, doesn't it? Like something to be pursued. If somebody told you there was some Bitcoin out there at $200 and you could find it, just have to look. What about getting wisdom for free? You have to search for it. And yet the Tao tells us it flows everywhere, both to the left and the right. I hope this Sunday, or whatever day you're listening to this will trigger a new awakening or a refreshed awakening to prioritize wisdom. However old or young you are, to say that I am going to be a wise soul. I'm going to cry out for it. I'm going to make it my path. Today, I don't like this word, but today there's an expression, hack. In other words, it's used in the context of quickest way there. Here's an email hack. Here's a crypto hack. Here's a weight loss hack. Like you can shortcut everything. Lots of times the longer path is the better one. But if you want a hack for wisdom, it's high energy. That's why the scale of energy is so brilliant in its simplicity. Yet how many times do we have angry reactions, fear-based motivations, desires to puff up or pride, peacock ourselves, or guilt we simply won't release from the past, or dark thoughts that we continue to spin around in our mind, for some even to the point of such depression that we wonder if we should even continue. Those are the low energies, and they are the opposite of wisdom. Love is the ultimate highest vibration. Peace, contentment, joy, gratitude. You stay in those, you'll be on the hack path to wisdom. And just as we learned, you can ask for it. Call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding. Let's do that now. This music is again from Fred Dodson. Take a couple of good deep breaths to center your focus within. You might even want to do an Om. Think of universal wisdom. Think of it flowing from highest source. How does that show up for you? Is it like a river? Like a breeze, like a gentle breeze? Or is it like a person? Maybe like a personified deity. Maybe it's Jesus. Maybe it's an old saint, a guide, an angel. The Great Dao flows everywhere. That's the common theme, flow. It's a nourishing flow. So think of this flow and see how you are connected to it. Does it flow through you? Or does it flow more around you? Or does it flow past you? Not even connected. Maybe you're in your own flow now, and divine flow is separate. It's okay, just recognize it for what it is. Where is it? Where is the flow? Wisdom, as we have learned, is connecting with the flow, calling to it. If you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, if you look for it as for silver and search for it as for hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you say you are? Crying out for wisdom and understanding? searching for it with all your heart? How could you improve? How could you be more in flow with the Tao? Knowing others is wisdom. Knowing the self is enlightenment. The Great Dao flows everywhere, both to the left and to the right. The 10,000 things depend upon it. It holds nothing back. It fulfills its purpose silently and makes no claim. It nourishes the 10,000 things, and yet is not their lord. It has no aim. It is very small. The 10,000 things return to it, yet it is not their lord. It is very great. It does not show greatness, and therefore is truly great. Divine wisdom is there for you now. Let it nourish you. Call out for it from within your soul. Seek it with all your heart. Commit to its path. Live in its flow. And enjoy the journey.